So, day 2 is upon us. Bright light. It actually provides warmth because it's in the 40s right now in here. Well, 50s in the garage because it's insulated. But yeah. So, as we left off yesterday, obviously we have the rust repair still underway. However, I'm going to be doing the rest of the cleanup under here. By the way, what I thought was rust was just dirt. There's no rust there, thank God. But yeah, so I need to clean this area up and this area up, which you can just hear me flaking it off there. And we'll get on that in just a second. And then one thing that did occur to me yesterday, and it's something I just don't think about because I used to do this for a living, is masks. So I went and picked up some so you don't have to say, hey, why aren't you wearing anything to keep you from breathing in rust? Well, I did it for years, and that's not an excuse. Don't do it. Do as I say, not as I do. I did get some rust converter for the inside of the wheel well, and I'll spray that in there before we start doing any kind of Bondo. And yes, we're going to be doing Bondo. And additionally, I'm using my old glasses. One of those things that I really, again, didn't think about until it was way too late yesterday is that I was using my brand new glasses and wearing them while I was sanding. These will work just fine, and they're better for me. So, woohoo. Spin this around backwards, put on a mask, and get to it. There we go. We'll be back after this surgery, doctor. There we go. Slightly better picture. Anyway, I'm wearing my mask because I've sprayed a little bit of the corrosion inhibitor or converter, rust converter, and unfortunately it was worse than I thought in a few spots. As you can see, yeah, the holes that have been made, and I'm gonna wait a little while. Probably try to get in there with a little bit of a wire brush and try to clean that out. But underneath there you can see there's some surface stuff. It did eat away at the very edge here. Nothing I can really do about that other than stop the rust. And yeah, I'm gonna wind up having to fill in a couple of holes, but you know what, them's the breaks, and that's just what's gonna happen. So next thing you'll see is I'm gonna probably throw a layer of primer on it after I'm done putting a few more coats of this stuff on it, and yeah, we'll come back. Of course, in typical me fashion, it decided not to record any of this. But yeah, I basically just put a small piece of fiberglass in each hole, and then I covered the hole with Bondo. As long as there's no moisture in there, which there isn't, you're fine. And this is just a cheap-ass repair, but it's going to look a hell of a lot better than rust spots. At least it will when I get paint on it, which won't be for a few days. But hey, we can't all be winners, can we? Yeah. Bondo is kind of annoying because you have to wait quite a while for it to dry. So for me, it's probably going to be an hour and a half before I come back out here and start sanding, even though I have a very hot lamp on here. You can see it's still quite damp. I'm going to let that just go for a while, harden up. And then I will come out and do a rough sanding on it, and then I will do more sanding. And yeah, I did put some under there. I have to put another layer on there, specifically right there. And then, yeah, once I do all of that, we'll go back in with some 80 grit, knock it down, and then we'll start moving up in grits until we can prime it. See you in a while, or in a second for you, because I'm gonna edit it that way. It's been a little bit over an hour. And it's very not going anywhere. So time to knock it down with some 80 grit. And that ought to be fun. So I'll show you what that's like. First I'm going to cover this tire because I don't want to get crap all over it. And believe it or not, just a plain plastic bag will work. Heavy duty lawn bag works best, but you can use whatever you want. They do sell real wheel covers, but screw that. I'm just using some standard 80 grit because it's 80 grit. And we'll move up in size as we continue along. 80 grit. I fold mine into thirds. You do it however you feel like. So I'll have to double check the camera, but you can see that was under 5 minutes of actual sanding for the first batch that I put on there. And obviously it's going to take a couple of more because these were pretty significant holes. But as you can see, it's already starting to fill in everywhere. And I'm recreating the body line as we go. And when we're done, it'll look pretty good. So next thing to do is put a second layer of Bondo on there. Let that dry, and then we'll machine that too. So we'll be back. Layer numero dos. So I filled in all the major holes and then a good amount in there to fill in any divots. And there'll probably be one more skim coat that goes on in order to fully fix and repair the damage. The damage. It's damage? Yes, it's damage. Okay. When this is dry, we will keep moving. Second layer appears to be dry enough to mess with. So let's go ahead and sand the rough edges down. So I'm going to turn off the camera because it's going to take an hour or so. Come back when this treatment is done and we'll continue working. I've now applied a second coat and filed it down, smoothed it down, sanded it down, whatever you want to call it. And you can actually see the difference in the two layers. You can see the red, the darker pink, not red, the darker pink is actually the second application, and you can see what it actually filled in and how much of it I actually took back off on the second pass. I've also started smoothing that out. There's a chunk missing right here that I have to recreate still. And then back here, I need to sand these edges a little bit more using a file. But compared to how bad they were not too long ago, I think they're coming along fine. And I think they'll be all right, and it'll be smooth. So, and in case you're wondering, I am using a straight piece of plastic. It actually has foam on the bottom, but it allows me to maintain a straight angle. Straight angle, right angle, 90 degree, perpendicular, whatever you want to call it. It makes sure that I'm not like using my fingers and creating grooves and marks in the filler as I sand it down. So I'm going to do one more wipe now that I have it about 90% there. I'm going to finish it off, and tonight, I think today, tonight, whatever time you're seeing this, all we're going to do is we're going to get it in primer and let it sit overnight to see how much the primer shrinks, and then we will worry about getting it painted. So I'll be back in a few minutes. And there we go. That will be the last layer. I'm 99% sure. Even going up under there, looks really good. So as soon as that dries, we'll sand it and be done-ski with the bodywork part, and then we will move on to painting. Hi there, rest of the truck. Rough-in is now complete, and it's really more of a finished rough-in But that was done using just 80 grit. So what I need to do now is I may wind up having to knock this down a little bit. That spot where it's all shiny is a little bit higher than everywhere else. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that down a little bit, put a little bit more filler in there, and then I'm going to hit all this with 180 grit. So hopefully it'll be done tonight, if not tomorrow. I fell victim to a problem that a lot of body guys run into, and that is chasing one curve. By chasing one curve, I created divots and irregularities in the surface of the metal, and I got pissed and I started over. So as you can see, I threw some primer on there just to protect some of the bare metal and see how flat it was, and it wasn't, so now I have to fix that. This is an intermediate stage where I'm probably going to have to do a little bit more skim stuff on here, especially right there where that little divot is. But as you can see, it's actually really coming along, so I'm very happy with where it is. That's where we're going to leave it tonight. Tomorrow we'll pick up with taking care of what's left here, as well as getting it actually painted. As you can see, I've taped it off a little bit in order to facilitate that. I originally was just going to try to blend that and then not clear everything. However, I'm just going to clear this entire quarter panel down to this body line. I'll tape it there under this edge. You'll never see the edge of the clear. I'm using a lacquer-based clear, and hopefully I can match the paint pretty well. We'll see how that comes out. And yeah, so until tomorrow, I'll talk to you later.